Wokeism is a social ideology that has many parallels with a narcissistically abusive family structure. Wokeism is a narcissistic ideology based on pride, ego identity, and the social facade of always being morally superior than the groups of people that they target for their devaluation and discard. This is done through narcissistic abuse cycles targeted at the public, mostly in the style of pseudo-empathetic, pseudo-altruistic covert narcissism, where the abuser tries to maintain a false facade of moral superiority, empathy, altruism, and eternal victimhood, while attacking their targets by the use of gaslighting, cry-bullying, and a constant moving of the goalpost. The actual victims in this broad-scale societal abuse are the vast majority of people in society who want healthy relationships and healthy institutions founded on actual truth, human nature, for example, recognizing men and women are not interchangeable in their social functions, and working with that obvious knowledge rather than fighting against it. Now, before I continue, be sure to like the video, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss the next parts to this video series.
Wokeism, the narcissistic social family unit. In wokeist ideology, people are grouped on the pseudo-victim hierarchy stack, and measures are taken to discriminate or treat people differently based on their inherent biological qualities or sexual behaviors. This graphic is based on the organizational power chart from Natalie Martinek, a PhD. It shows the organizational power chart of a narcissistic family structure. Today, I'll be applying this chart to the philosophy of wokeism. I'll explain how the family of wokeism has an ally, a golden child, an invisible child, and a scapegoat. We'll start at the top, the ally. LGBTQ groups are allies in the narcissistic family structure of wokeism. Before I talk on the LGBTQ movement, I would like to point out that I am actually a member of this group as well and have no hatred towards them. In fact, I currently identify as the world's best female rapper, Ice Spice.
I got ass, I got ass. I got boobies, I got boobies. I got booty, I'm a cutie. I sell my pictures, I'm a Rudy. I don't need a man, I got 500 in my DM. Now I drive a Benz, also not to mention I have a vagina. Marriage is a pension, nice guys wait in line. I still gotta smash another whole lot of chads. You collect cards, I collect baby dads. I spend all my cash and I'm covered in tats. Soon I'll be wearing some rags and living with cats.
Apologies for that. By the way, AROnlyfans.unstoppable is now available for $2 at unstoppabledomains.com. On top of that, you can receive a further $10 off your first Unstoppable Web3 domain if you click the affiliate link in the description below. Now I've gotten that disclaimer out of the way, let's begin. LGBTQ groups and values are promoted in mainstream culture, kindergartens and schools. Unless you're a member of this group like myself, as an AI transsexual female rapper, you have absolutely no right to talk on this subject in any way. If your baby mama wants to go live with Tyrone in what was your house and turn your 5-year-old son into a girl with hormone therapy and surgery funded by your tax dollars as a handout, then you're a bigot if you disagree. And if you physically try to stop that from happening, you are committing assault against a minor and will be thrown in jail for a long time. If we're not there yet, that is where the woke narrative will lead to. While the LGBTQ groups may have some legitimate grievances, the pride parades, the pronoun selections when creating social media accounts, and the homosexual prominence in mainstream media reeks of pseudo-altruistic, pseudo-empathetic narcissism. The woke system doesn't care about these groups of people or the individuals in these groups any more than they are useful to the woke agenda. And just because you like to have sex in different ways than other people that actually results in reproduction and family, that is no justification for pride. They only push LGBTQ on the masses and your children in kindergarten because their sexual proclivities do not aid efficiently in reproducing humans, and the woke agenda wants to decrease the world's population, destroy the family unit, and make people as dependent on big tech and the state as possible. There's a lot more I could talk about on this subject, but I can already hear Susan breathing in the dark corner of the room behind me, and I think if I continue, she'll strike. The next layer in the pyramid is the golden child. The golden children of the narcissistic family of wokeism is below average and average females. Wokeism targets average females with their ideology because they know that females are more likely to be hypersocial conformists because of their lower testosterone levels, which is why wokeism also deliberately attacks males' testosterone levels with food, water, and chemicals. Women are also more likely to pride themselves off of appearing morally superior and appearing more empathetic than the next person. While in the West, a lot of women may have never given a homeless man $1, but they'll likely gladly spend tens of thousands of dollars to fly overseas and do volunteer work in an orphanage in a country of color, of course, in order to fill up their social media feeds and resumes with these supposed good deeds. Even though donating that money to them directly would have likely helped them much more. Likewise, they will fight to maintain their right to abort their own children without having a good reason, but will express to the world how much they love animals. If not complete pseudo-empathy, this is at least a distortion of natural female empathy, based around the perceptions of others, pride, and ego. Wokeism aims to direct women's empathy away from men, and away from children, and away from humans, and direct it towards animals and, of course, the planet instead. Planet Gaia is worshipped today by wokeists above humanity itself, and Greta is obviously the golden child mascot of this phenomenon. While the general programmed public dismisses the use of chemtrails, fluoridated tap water, directed energy weapons that elites use to create artificial bushfires, earthquakes, and hurricanes, they are hyper-convinced that changes in the water, atmosphere, and weather are not deliberate actions of a covert governing body waging covert warfare against the masses, but the result of you driving a car to work and the steak you eat farting before it was killed, justifying you being forced to pay more extortive taxation to help fund their scheme further. While women are raised to idolize Kim Kardashian, a glorified porn star, actual smart women are still largely ignored, even after all of the front-bottom supremacy propaganda. Dr. Judy Wood is an actual genius woman who has done extensive research on directed energy weapons and how they were used in the attacks 23 years ago that was blamed on Brown Cave Santa and the 2 flying Airbuses. Now, as society begins to obviously collapse, there are a lot more outspoken women than before. However, in all of human history, women have never banded together to wage a physical war against an oppressive regime they don't want to conform to. Women are much less confrontational by nature. Women are much more likely to blindly obey authoritative regimes. But the front-bottom supremacy movement encourages them to pride themselves off of fighting the penisarchy. So any confrontational energy they do have is misdirected to fight against the systems that have been used for millennia in order to maintain a positive social order. So, wokeism allows brainwashed average women to conform to the current authority while simultaneously allowing them to delude themselves that they are actually fighting against it. So in a system where women are given government handouts paid by mostly men, quotas in education, corporations, governments, given their own safe space sports leagues, menstrual leave, domestic violence shelters after they choose to date thugs, can kill your own baby on a whim, can bleed you dry in divorce courts, make millions of dollars by masturbating and putting it on the internet, and on top of that, have all the same rights as men, except getting their nipples out at the public pool. Many of them are still convinced that by dismissing the obvious abuse of men in today's society, and by kicking men out of work and family structures, that they are actually somehow being strong and independent and morally superior and fighting the current system they call the penisarchy, when they are actually just behaving as useful idiots for the wokeist agenda. This is the same wokeist agenda that will gladly see more and more rapidly aging modern women turn to drugs, antidepressants, spend more time on therapists, become more obese, post videos of them having mental breakdowns in their car as their eggs dry up and they realize they may be living out the rest of their years alone without a male retirement plan. Because so many men have simply checked out of marriage and family preemptively to save ourselves the embarrassment and costs of getting kicked out by them later on so they can run off with our money and chase their next Chad. Of course, by criticizing the behaviors of the golden children of this narcissistic family structure, you'll be met with complete narcissistic rage when telling the truth, as you are exposing the cracks in the deceitful mask of a narrative pushed by wokeism. The wokeist movement wants to inflate their golden child's ego as much as possible. Dating apps use algorithms to encourage polygamy, leaving a whole generation of women with hyperinflated egos, as they all share men well and truly out of their league, and 99% of men are ignored or probably even shadow banned by the apps for not being good looking enough as to not deter their comparatively scarce female clientele. Likewise, the body positivity movement only applies to average women and below average women. The average woman is now overweight. While being a bit overweight isn't that bad, when combined with overconfidence, a lack of empathy for men, and a morally self-righteous attitude, it is a really bad combination, like milk and orange juice. Body positivity propaganda has been pushed for decades only towards women, while women's standards of male attractiveness has skyrocketed. There are many obese women that will expect to be able to secure a relationship with a male model. And while in today's hyperhoflation many may be able to get a one-night stand with one, they think that they'll end up getting commitment from these men. Naturally, women want a man to protect them that they respect enough to submit to. Wokeism teaches them that this is bad. But wokeism satisfies women's need to be protected by an authority they submit to by stripping social authority from men and claiming to protect women from men. Domestic violence propaganda is pushed by the state, taught in school, and given disproportionate media coverage to maintain this facade. Of course, domestic violence only in the context of men being the aggressor and women being the victims. To make matters worse, given men have such minimal rights, women will often try to provoke men into becoming violent to ensure they are sent to jail and have their reputations ruined. On a more subconscious level, a lot of women being raised in such a feminized society do actually crave physical force from a man to a degree or another. They want to be restrained and punished on some level, just like a child acting out as craving discipline, as it still shows the parent cares. This is why so many women have developed attention-seeking mental and behavioral disorders, where they will act out just to get attention from men, even if it's negative attention. And they'll even do this in interpersonal relationships, where they will deliberately try to cause drama just so the man gets angry and satisfies their need for drama and attention. Wokeism understands this dynamic and allows it to continue because it supports their abusive man-female victim narrative. The next part on this hierarchy is the invisible child. This includes about 99% of men. Not chads, not rich, not famous, not bad boy thugs. They may even live a happy and productive life, but they're too average, not rich enough simps, and not chad enough chads. While men are still expected to do all of the dangerous jobs and actually run society itself, any benefits they received from this in the past are taxed out of them to pay for the cuckold economy. Any authority they once had over women is stripped from them legally, and any respect or admiration they once got from society at large is taken from them as men have been silenced by big tech, including this platform. Even real-life social groups will have submissive males that do not like talking about this subject, as they are distraught with anxiety at the mere concept of disagreeing with the herd. Despite our lack of acknowledgement or appreciation, men are still expected to do all of the jobs, but then we are expected to shut up and not talk, not voice our concerns over the issues we face from hoflation and inflation. While we shouldn't be throwing ourselves a pity party, it is important to note that creating a society where young men have less and less to lose is not ideal for social stability, as a person who doesn't feel warmth from the village will burn it down to feel that warmth. Unless, of course, they are hooked up to the metaverse, on a date with their AI girlfriend, with their flesh pocket warming up in the microwave, which is where wokeism wants us to all end up. As men have fewer and fewer friends, are banned from social media, and are stripped of having families due to hyperhoflation and hyperinflation, social isolation for men is at unprecedented levels. The wokeism agenda will have most males neutered and microchipped at birth so that they can start earning social credits from as young as possible, as their augmented reality trains them to behave in ways that are in stark contrast to a masculine male behavior. Wokeism wants men living in the shadows, in the darkness, by ourselves, feeding the machine that ignores our existence, other than to use us as a scapegoat. At the bottom of this hierarchy are the scapegoats. Scapegoats are often the foundational pillars of society, the people that are most productive economically and build the healthiest, strongest families. Wokeism creates a hostile social environment, but instead of taking accountability for the problems intentionally caused by wokeism blame shifts onto scapegoats. If the targets of mistreatment and discrimination fall outside of their predefined parameters, then all of the ideas of tolerance and acceptance are foregone in the name of what can be described as self-righteous abuse. These scapegoats include incels, successful men, and traditional women. But it also includes people of select biological phenotypes, a topic which is outside the scope of this presentation, because I can already hear Susan warming up her trigger finger. There are also non-human scapegoats such as global warming, Russia, North Korea, and the next psychological warfare operation inflicted upon the masses. These are also outside of the scope of this presentation, and I'll be focusing on the groups of people. Incels, or men who are involuntarily celibate, are used as scapegoats by wokeism, to blame, distract, and shame. As though life doesn't suck enough for them already, the supposed tolerant activists of wokeism fighting for a better world just can't help but try to mock and undermine the grievances of a growing percentage of men who have a literal disability, the disability to get laid. Or at least that's how incels should explain their situation if they want to beat wokeism at their own game. Play the sympathy card. Oh wait, you don't get any sympathy, because you're a scapegoat. In defense of incels, the levels of hoflation in modern society are absolutely unprecedented. And today, in order to get a woman that's a 2, as a man you basically have to be rich, at least a 6 out of 10, which puts most men in the incel category by default, unless they work on their appearance, finances, or in some cases, they may require the act of warping reality itself in order for them to be reincarnated in an entirely new body and face with a different bone structure. Usually, to be called an incel online, you don't need to actually be ugly, a virgin, or unable to get bedroom fun at all. It is more or less a slur used to associate low status to a man, often used by triggered NPCs for talking outside of the ever-mutating parameters of wokeism. The narrative they push is that incels are all ugly losers and are dangerous to society because a small percentage of them are serial killers. But they don't ascribe that same associative logic to their protected groups, which are statistically more significant when it comes to violence. And I ain't capping on that, that's real facts, G. Nah, I think you know what I mean. Anyways, wokeism tries to associate men being unable to find a girlfriend with toxic masculinity by associating them with serial killers. While this may sometimes be true, wokeism actively destroys marriage and the motivation for men to engage in long-term monogamy with women, as it is such high risk with minimal reward for the average man, which results in polygamy and a few successful men getting all of the women. Wokeism creates actual incels and then blames them for the issues caused from wokeism, a classic form of blame shifting and gaslighting. Successful men are also scapegoated by wokeism. This includes men that are healthy, wealthy, in shape, have confidence and skills or talent, usually tall with a pretty face, and of course, the only one of these that I lack, a nice thick head of hair. The programming in this arena is actually so strong that even an accredited professor that studies narcissism will falsely associate any successful male traits with narcissism. Front-bottom advocate and psychology professor Dr. Amani once said that the book on narcissism could be titled How to Be a Man in Today's World and Succeed. While you may think this may have been a poor out-of-character comment, she didn't really mean. She has indeed been in videos backing up this claim in an interview and firmly stands by it. Successful men are a danger to wokeism. Wokeism requires men to be submissive to peer pressure, women, and the state apparatus system. Only successful men can change the course of destiny and time before the woke algorithm is programmed into all facets of human society, except of course the ones funding it. The powers that be understand this narcissistic family structure, and it is important for them to gaslight successful men, as well as men who might just have the potential to be successful, and garner as much guilt and empathy out of them as possible, while often undermining their achievements based on so-called privilege. Wokeism wants men depressed with low self-esteem and submissive to women and the state, while simultaneously men who display calm internal confidence, who see through social programming techniques, are dismissed as arrogant, cocky, and stepping out of line. Who do you think you are? I'll likely be accused of this by making such a triggering video on such a small channel. Who do I think I am? Well, I think I'm Dr. Sir Mr. Man Boss, thank you very much. However, women who display actual arrogance, ignorance, and completely immoral behavior are gassed up and told they are strong, independent boss babe queens. Wokeism tries to associate men that are financially successful with toxic masculinity. While wokeism shames the incels it creates, wokeism tries to also associate men that are successful with women with toxic masculinity. Any man that is successful in doing this will be accused of being a player, a somatic narcissist, a user, an abuser, and this may sometimes be true, but wokists fail to take accountability for what group of people is actually rewarding those behaviors in straight men.
I love men that cheat.
Obviously, it's the wokest women, who in today's society admit that they like to be cheated on and find solid, stable relationships with men boring. If you are a top 1% man with hundreds of women lined up, why would you choose to marry one who will likely think less of you for doing so? Traditional women are also the scapegoat child in this narcissistic social family of wokeism. Moral and traditional, straight, attractive, skinny women with low body counts and low psychological trauma are detested by wokeism, and wokeism entirely disregards these women's place in the victim hierarchy in order to pursue their goals. While so-called body positivity is promoting obesity, many attractive women are the targets of online bullying and body shaming from jealous overweight women and men who are frustrated. Wokeism tries to associate traditional women who are happy with their lives as victims of toxic masculinity, financial abuse, and coercion. This may sometimes be true, but wokeism fails to uphold their own pro-choice rhetoric and gaslight women who disagree with them into thinking that they are crazy or victims and just haven't figured it out yet. Men and women who want traditional monogamous relationships will likely be accused of being codependent or controlling, or the woman having a controlling husband because he doesn't let her go out and hang out with Chad on Saturday nights. There's nothing wokeists hate more than a happy, attractive, straight woman with a low body count, having a big family that loves her husband more than she pretends to love the planet, starving kids in Africa, or stray dogs. Wokeism will throw us all under the bus until men are raising other men's children conceived in front of them whose father was clearly another race. And while your wife goes off to work in the coal mines, you'll stay home and breastfeed as the state pays you extra social credits for taking part in gender transition experiments that gives you just enough income to live in your rundown shoebox, eating freeze-dried crickets and drinking fluoridated, dumbing down tap water. And some people are probably already there. Now at this point you may be thinking, I sound like a conspiracy theorist. Well, guess what? Conspiracy theorists are another scapegoat child in this narcissistic family. Conspiracy theorist is a term that now basically means a person who doesn't believe what big tech wants them to believe. The same big tech that has pushed wokeism into every corner of the earth that has an internet connection. It would be one thing if conspiracy theorists were able to talk freely on social media without being shadow banned, and people could have debates. But the narcissism of wokeism doesn't encourage normies to admit that they're wrong, and it encourages them to disengage from such content if it slips through the cracks of censorship or is part of a wave so great that censorship is proving ineffective. Conspiracy theorists are often greeted by normies with a narcissistic attitude and are gaslit time and time again. We're all just crazy, paranoid people. When people don't have legitimate arguments, they say the conspiracy theorist is paranoid, full of hatred, has too much time on their hands, doesn't understand science, and blah 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 blah. But very few normies can actually make solid arguments for the things that they believe, because those beliefs are just programmed into them by wokeism, by mindlessly consuming mainstream media. Instead of arriving at conclusions based on self-directed research and logic, the docile fluoridated masses just believe what everyone else believes, because group acceptance is more important to them than truth itself. It's my belief that if you reject truth, God will reject you, and that's one of the reasons we are seeing hell on earth, as so many people are rejecting truth and ignoring and dismissing truth in order to maintain their socially acceptable, narcissistic facade of compassion and wokeism. Wokeism is a cancer on society. While the weak simps of the world revel in their own degradation and tolerate more and more abuse from women in society in order to compete in the dating market, while the jaded, broken and delusional women who are front-bottom supremacists, who wasted their prime fertility years or chased bad boys into abusive relationships because they enjoy drama, want the rest of the world to be as miserable as them. Misery loves company, and it's important for the world and your own mental health to stop associating with NPCs, normies, and wokeists any more than you have to, and to start speaking out against wokeism as much as possible before the next cycle of mass banning occurs on social media, which may not be too far off. If you have come this far in this video, your attention span is longer than 99% of humans on the planet, and I applaud you. You have my full permission to mirror this video on any social media platform you wish before it's probably banned or shadow banned. You can download the video using ssyoutube.com. Thanks for watching. Please share this video and like it, and be sure to subscribe. And if it gets enough views, I may put in the extra effort I put into this one in terms of editing in future videos. If it doesn't get enough views, I probably won't, so please share it, comment and like. You can also donate me privacy coins using the link in the video description below to help support my work. I believe privacy coins will go up in value because as more and more people invest in surveillance currencies like Bitcoin, they will see their expensive transactions tracked and their capital gains taxed to pay for more wokeist propaganda, maybe even before they cash out if it takes off fast enough. So keep some privacy coins for yourself too. It may be a really good investment. You can buy privacy coins at tradeogre.com without any KYC, simply by transferring Litecoin to the exchange from your wallet or your exchange. You can also use Bitcoin or other currencies, but Litecoin has relatively lower fees than most, and is available on most KYC exchanges that most of you probably use. If you liked the AI visuals in this video, you can do them yourself at kaber.ai, and if you sign up in the affiliate link in the description, you'll also help me by giving me free credits to put towards future videos. Also, as a final point, I would like to say that I would never delete myself. I'm Dr. Sir Mr. Man Boss, signing out.